Hello friends, I'm going to take you through the process of making some cool subtitle MOGRTS with some animation and some character. They're fully responsive, so you can type as much as you want and it'll fit. Well, most are. Some have limits, but anyhow, time to get to work. First, I'll show you how to make this style of subtitle, where the bottom stays at a predetermined height and the top is determined by the height of the text. That way, you can put some animations on the top or bottom because you know where it's gonna be. This is what we'll be making. Next, I'll give you a little walkthrough of how this subtitle works. It's fake 3D. It's all 2D made to look 3D. And in my opinion, this is the coolest one, and I'll show you how that works. And if you stick around to the end, I'll show you how to make this. Now, let me begin by saying that this can get real frustrating real quick. When your text isn't lining up the way you want, just be patient. It is possible. If you have any specific questions, ask in the comments below. Now, source rect at time is our new best friend. It gives us the width, height, and the leftmost point and the topmost point of any bounding box. These videos here are fantastic and help me a lot, so check them out. They're more of an in-depth look at source rect at time. But let's start with a new canvas, 1920 by 1080. Make the comp 6 seconds long. Start with the text. I'm gonna type something out and then make a shape layer rectangle and put it behind the text. Change the color to something wood color. Rename it to sign and text. I want the size of the rectangle to be determined by the size of the text. So Control F to find, type size, Alt click on the stopwatch. I'm gonna declare a variable. I'm gonna name it A, but you could name it anything you want. So A equals, and I'm gonna pick whip to the text layer and add dot source rect at time, semicolon. The size is looking for an X value and a Y value. So I'm gonna put these brackets, X, Y, at the bottom, and now define what X and Y are. X equals A dot width, and that's the width of the text box, and Y equals A dot height. That's the height of the text box. And you can see the size fits. Now we need to position the box accordingly. You might think you can just align them and it makes sense, but that's not the case. This is where it gets muddy because there are different types of positions. There's world positions, there's comp positions, layer positions, and all kinds of stuff, but that's too much for this video. Suffice to say, we need to change the position of the rectangle path. The rectangle path, not the position of the layer, not the position of the transform, the position or the rectangle path. And we're gonna do the same we did for the size. Declare variable A, pick whip the text, add source rect at time. Declare X and Y, and then define them. The formula will be a little different though. For X, it's A dot left plus A dot width divided by 2. That's basically getting the leftmost point of the box and adding half the width so it sticks right in the center. Same for Y, except we're using top instead of left and we're using height instead of width to stick it right in the middle of the box. And it appears to be working. Now I want to add some padding to the side and the top. I'm gonna make a new blank shape layer as a control layer. I'm using a shape layer instead of an adjustment layer or a null layer because that's what Media uses, and I want to be just like him. Add 2 slider controls. Name them accordingly. Go down into the sign size. In the X, add an addition sign and pick whip to the X slider. Do the same for Y and pick whip to the Y slider. And now I can control the padding size from up here. Oh, I forgot to mention, pick whip the sign layer to the text layer, or parent the sign layer to the text layer. We want the text to be in control, so if we move the text, the sign will follow. You can see when I type a new line, the text goes down. I want the text to go up, so the bottom stays put and it's the top that extends and goes up. That is an anchor point issue. I want the anchor point to stay at the bottom center of the text at all times, no matter what. On the text layer, hit A to bring up the anchor point. Alt-click to type an expression. Declare A as this layer dot source rect at time. And I'm gonna type basically the same formula I used for the position of the sign, with one exception. So X equals A dot left plus A dot width divided by 2. Okay, that's good. And Y equals A dot top plus A dot height. And Y is different with we're not dividing by 2, because dividing by 2 puts it right in the middle. We want it to be at the bottom. We want the anchor point to be at the bottom, not in the middle. So it's just A dot top plus A dot height. See if this works, and it does. I'm gonna move the sign to the spot that I want. Now I'm gonna make the posts on the side. It's gonna be a stroke layer with a round cap. I made it long on the bottom because if the sign gets tall, it will have to move with it. So the posts have to be quite long on the bottom. I will rename them, change the color, and center the anchor point with Control-Alt-Home. So basically, I want the post's X position to be dependent on the sign's width, and the sign's Y position to be dependent on the sign's height. Starting with the left post, I'll hit P for position. This can be done on the layer position. Do the same as all of them. Declare A, and I want the sign's information, not the text, the sign. So I'm gonna pick whip to the sign and add source rect at time. Again, declare X and Y and then give them values. Just gonna look at the X for now. Y, I'll just give a value right now. So X equals A dot left. Now let's see what that does, so you can kind of see what's going on under the hood of these expressions. A dot left equals -742. It's taking the sign's anchor point, which is right in the center of it, and it's saying to the left, it's saying that the leftmost edge is -742 pixels from the middle. But that's not what we want. So I will add width divided by 2. And notice that it's just width, not A dot width. So width is of the whole comp, not the width of the A layer. Important distinction. You can see what happens when I change it. And that puts it right on the edge of the sign. But let's add another slider to the control layer and then subtract that slider from it so we can adjust the position how we want it. Looks good. Let's do the same for the right post, but we have to change it a little bit. We're gonna add the A dot width to it, and we are gonna add the slider, not subtract. And there we go. Now we need the Y position to respond to the height of the sign. Let's set Y equals height plus A dot top minus A dot height. So that basically puts the post at the bottom of the screen and then adds the offset to it depending on how tall the sign is. And it looks like it works on both the X and the Y. So the sign is set. Now let's add a little blue birdie dancing around on the top of the sign. So I'm gonna make a comp 500 by 500, and I'm gonna animate my little birdie jumping back and forth. Back out on my main comp, I'm gonna put the bird comp right about here. See how that looks. Now I need to position it responsively. It needs to move with the size of the sign. So I hit P for position, Alt click on the stopwatch. I want the sign's information. So A equals pick whip to the sign, source rect at time. Declare X and Y and define them. Here I realized that width equals the width of the layer you're on, not the width of the comp. So I have to change it to this comp. So this comp dot width divided by 2 puts the bird in the middle. And now I have to add a dot width divided by 2. That's half the width of the sign. And that puts me on the edge of the sign, but I want it to be, say, I don't know, 120 some pixels to the left. So I'm gonna make a slider and subtract it. I'm gonna do the same for the Y. Y equals this comp dot height minus a dot height minus my bird offset Y slider. Let's see how it responds to all different sizes. It looks good. I want to animate it in though. So I make a null and I put its position at 0, 0. And that's important. All of our expressions are based off other things' positions. Positions in relation to the comp size. And that starts at 0, 0 in the top left corner. If you put the null in the middle and parent things to the null, then it changes their position numbers and everything breaks. So null at 0, 0, parent everything to it, animate it in pretty quickly. Subtitles are quick. You want them in and you want them out, and then animate it out quickly too. I'm gonna create a protected area so that in Premiere Pro, if you drag out the timing of the MOGRT, it won't affect that protected area. So make your work area right after the birdie stops moving, then right click on the bar and select Create Protected Region from Work Area. And then I'm gonna do the same thing a few frames later until the end of the comp and create a protected area again. That way, if you stretch the subtitle out in Premiere Pro, it won't affect any of the animation. It will extend the region in between where nothing's moving, nothing's going on, so it'll look better. We don't want our animations slowing down and speeding up. Now, go to Window, Essential Graphics, choose the comp, set poster time to bring up the picture, drag the source text in there from the text layer, save and export motion graphics template. Now in Premiere Pro, let's see how it looks. And you can see when I stretch it out, it still looks good. Let me turn off all these mats on these blocks. Okay, there, you can kind of see what's happening. So we have all these blocks, they're kind of stacked on top of each other, and their color is based on their Y position. As their Y position changes, so does their color. So it kind of gives the illusion of rotation. And the way that was done is with the linear function. Yeah, so it's a fill and an expression on the linear function. And the linear function's kind of like, I guess it's like a clamp. If you've ever used another programming language before, it's like it maps one set of values to another set of values. So let's say it maps 0 to 100 of my Y position, and then it maps it to like 2 different colors. So 0 would be red and 100 would be purple. And then that means that the color would fluctuate between red and purple. Yeah, linear. So it's using my block position, which is position 1, that's the Y. So it's using the Y position of the block. Show box minus 140. So that means once 140 pixels above the show block. Oh, which by the way, so everything's matted to this. Nothing shows unless it's in this rectangle. Yeah, so basically it just Y position is mapped to the colors, and as they go down, they get darker. When they're all matted, turn them all back on, it gives the illusion of some rotation. And another thing, I think the thing that really sells it is the diamonds at the top and the bottom. So those are just shape layers. Yeah, they kind of just cut into it. So like the one on the top cuts into it, kind of reveals the top of the shape. and the one at the bottom does the opposite. It extends the shape. You don't get to see the bottom. The diamond down here is different in the sense that, so all these yellow, these ones, I copied all the blocks and I shifted them down, and then I matted these blocks to that diamond. So for example, like, say if I, see that's gone now. So it only show in the diamond. Yeah, that's pretty much it. This one can't be, you can't do two lines of text. This is just for a quick sentence. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. This one is meant to be just a few words, not really lines of text. So I'll type out some text, draw out a circle, give it a fill and move it behind. Center it also. Change the color to a yellow, Control F, type size, Alt click for an expression, and same as before, declare A and make it equal to source rect at time. And I'm gonna make the circle the text box width times 1.2, which I will be changing later. This is just a little placeholder for now. It works. But you can see if I use a lot of line breaks, the size doesn't react to my text getting taller. So let's fix that. I'm gonna use an if-else statement. So I will declare variable x as 0. Not sure that's exactly necessary, but that's what I did. B equals the width, C equals the height. So if B is greater than C, then X will use B, the width. If it's not greater than C, then X will use C, the height. So this is just determining whether to use the text, whether to use the width of the text or the height of the text. And I get a little confused here because it doesn't look like it's working correctly, but I realized I forgot to center the anchor point on the text, so that's why it's doing that. So let's do that now. On the text, hit A for anchor point. Use the same formula we did for the wooden sign example, and it's working. I'm gonna duplicate the yolk layer and name it white. Make a new blank shape layer for my control layer. Add an expression control, slider control, name it something. This is gonna be my yolk size. I'm gonna make my size more controllable instead of hard coding the times 1.2. And in the white, I'm gonna do the same, make a slider and add it into the expression, change the fill to white. Now I'm gonna add a turbulent displace effect. In evolution, alt click and type time times 400. I'm gonna mess with the settings a bit to get it where I want. Add another one and make the amount high and the size small. That'll kind of make it look like it's sizzling. I'm also gonna put a turbulent displace on the yolk and parent the egg to the text. Next, I add a drop shadow to the yolk. I also add an inner shadow layer style to it. Layer styles can be a little finicky. I had to change the blend mode to lighten before I could see my white inner shadow. Copy the drop shadow to the white part and turn the distance down a bit. Now I'm gonna animate the intro for it, how it comes onto the screen. It's gonna kind of drop out of the air. Now this script is for overshooting. It is unbelievable, and I got it from this course at Motion Design School. Highly recommended. So I copy that and add it to my scale, and it adds a bounce or an overshoot to the scale, but I want less bounce. This is too much. So I change the decay value. And finally, I have a smack sound and a grilling sound, and I'm gonna line them up to match the animation, and I'm gonna make the whole animation last 3 seconds. That should be enough. I'm gonna make the whole comp a protected area. This one's 3 seconds no matter what. No making it short, no making it long. Now, open the Essential Graphics panel and choose the comp I want, and let's drag in source text. Next, drag the yolk and white sliders. And last, I want the text X and the text Y position so I can move it around the screen. So on text position, right click and choose separate dimensions and drag both up into the panel. I should be making the egg white value range larger, and I will fix that later because you're about to see after I export this into Premiere Pro that we have a little problem with the look. And you see there's our problem. The text isn't lining up correctly. And problem number 2 is the white slider only goes up to 100 pixels and it doesn't look right. But I can move it around the screen where I want, which is nice. And again, the text isn't lining up correctly. So I forgot to put the path position of the yolk in the middle of the text. So let's do that. And then copy it to the white part. Also, let's edit the range of the white part to go up to 200 pixels and export. And it should work, but it doesn't look like it is. It's still a bit off, but we're gonna have to call it a day there. If anyone knows why my egg text isn't flush, please let me know in the comments. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I did. I really like getting into the code with After Effects, and MOGRTS are really powerful now. I didn't use any media replacement in this example, but once you start using media replacement in MOGRTS, the sky is the limit. But anyway, some takeaways from this video. Source rect at time is your new best friend if you're making any kind of responsive text box. Beware of positions. There's layer position, there's transform position, there's path position, there's comp position, and last, if you can keyframe it, you can drag it into the essential graphics panel most of the time. Not in all cases, but a general rule of thumb, if you can keyframe it, you can drag it into the essential graphics panel. Thank you for sticking around to the end. If you want to see more videos like this, you gotta let me know in the comments below. Thanks again. I love you. Goodbye.